Hello everyone, the Mega Modded series is back, and things are just as crazy as last time. Who's that? What is happening? Why are there so many enemies? This is definitely going to be a crazy one. So like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. If you haven't seen the previous parts, pause the video and go watch them first. And without further delay, there is no better place than to start back on the farm. Returning to the farm after so much time away felt great. Though, I definitely didn't miss the freezing air sending chills down my spine this morning. But there was no time to waste, I still had plenty to do. At the end of the last 200 days, I had gathered all the required items to finish the preparations quest, and I placed them all into a box in Gio's cabin. I was given instructions to return the next morning. However, day 201 was spent wandering around, reacquainting myself with the valley, and figuring out my next steps. When the evening rolled around, I headed back to Gio's cabin, where I finally met Belinda, the mysterious seer I'd been so intrigued by. Turns out, she needed the items I collected to create a portal to the Spirit's Realm, with the help of Dyer and Gio of course. But things didn't go as planned. Despite their efforts, the items vanished, and the portal failed to open. A mysterious voice intervened, sealing it away and preventing it from harming us. From their exchange, it was clear that Belinda and this voice had a complicated past. She also mentioned my grandmother, hinting that everyone in this valley knew her somehow. But, like my grandfather, I had very few memories of their time here. For now, Belinda told me she'd be in touch when she was ready to try again. So many questions, so few answers. After a chaotic night, waking up to fields full of mints was a welcome sight. They don't sell for much, but hey, it was better than nothing. Winter 6 was Victoria's birthday, and she wanted a slime egg. No judgment here. One of my main goals in these 300 days was building friendships and relationships, as I was working towards 100% perfection. With so many NPCs to befriend, I had to start early. Back in Ridgeside, Belinda informed me that I needed to offer specific items to different coloured crystals in the backwoods in order to unseal the mountain spirit, aka the mysterious voice that spoke to us yesterday. However, comparing it to the preparations quest, this seemed much simpler, just to offer 30 items matching the crystal's colour. Of course, for now, I had to add it to my ever-growing to-do list. Back in Pelican town, I finally visited Robin and asked her to expand my house. I had some big plans for marriage in this run, so I'd need the extra space. On Sunday, my first batch of ancient fruit in the greenhouse was ready. As always, I kegged them. Though, I won't mention this every time, because I do it constantly, and it'd get very boring very fast. I was still struggling to remember what I needed to do, so the day was spent handling random farm chores. That night, I met up with Victoria at the saloon. We had a meal and a quick chat. It was nice. The new week meant it was time to start grinding again, but first it was the Festival of Ice. Not my favourite festival, but it was a good chance to socialise. And yes, I won the competition for the second year in a row. Before bed, I decided to put up the Christmas tree, which looked fantastic in the living room. With a new week came new special orders. In Pelican Town, I picked up reducing the crab menace, which required me to slay 50 crabs. Over on Ginger Island, I grabbed the extended family quest, which meant fishing up the legendary fish in just 3 days. There was no time to waste, so I got straight to work. First, the Son of the Crimson fish at the beach, then the mutant carp in the sewers, Mrs. Angler, and the Legend 2, and finally, glacier fish, late in the evening. These earned me some key gems, which was essential since I needed 2,000 of them for a new book added in Mr. Key's shop. Meanwhile, at the Wizard's Tower, Magnus handed me a strange potion. Drinking it unlocks a new magical skill, which allowed me to change my appearance in his basement. Pfft, that's a power I wish I had in real life. Winter 10 marked a milestone, my first obelisk. The water obelisk cost 10 clams, 10 coral, 500,000 gold and some iridium, but now I could teleport to the beach whenever I wanted. Feeling generous, I also gave Robin 950 pieces of wood and another 500,000 gold to build Pam a new house. Even after all the trouble she's caused me, I decided to put our differences aside. 'Tis the season for giving after all. It was also Sebastian's birthday, but since we weren't close enough for me to enter his room, I had to awkwardly wait outside for half the day, just to hand him a frozen tear. Probably not worth it. To end day 206, I started laying out the groundwork for my new storage shed, and began transferring my items into the sorted chests. A tedious but necessary task. Day 207 started the same way, moving items, organising, and questioning my life choices. Over in Ridgeside, I picked up a quest from the notice board, which tasked me to collect bug steaks for Mr. Aguirre's lab research. So I spent the day grinding in the lower levels of the mines, with monster musk of course, gathering as much bug meat as I could. On day 208, I rode Nessie to the lab to drop off the 20 bug steaks. I then made sure Gunther had a birthday gift. Yet again, I found myself hauling items to my new storage area. The mods have added hundreds of new items, so of course the process was made even more painful. Day 209 was the day of Pam's new house. I chose to remain anonymous, letting her believe it was a stroke of luck, rather than a favour from me. It was better this way anyway, no debts, no obligation. Meanwhile, I had big plans for my Ginger Island farm. My goal? Well, to cover the entire thing in pineapples. Why? Because in the new 1.6 update, the new dehydrator turns every single dried pineapple into something ridiculously profitable. I only had 13 seeds for now, but I plan to keep replanting them. Honestly, I was getting tired of star fruit and the ancient fruit, so it was time for something different. I also made some progress on the Ridge Crystals quest, gathering 30 of each colour item. However, for some reason, iridium ore wasn't considered blue. Am I blind? Day 210 I was back to the backwoods to offer 30 aquamarines instead, since apparently iridium ore isn't blue. Whatever. Winter 14 was Harvey's birthday, but just like Sebastian, I wasn't close enough friends to enter his room. So I spent the entire day waiting outside until 5 PM just to hand him a coffee. The things I do for friendship. Day 211 begins in a rather strange way. At my door I meet Bliss, another member of Belinda's crew, helping her reopen the portal to the spirit realm. She tells me to meet her in Ridgeside after 8 PM. When I said I wanted 100% perfection, I really mean it. That includes marrying as many people as possible. Mostly because of the many new candidates offer unique items and cutscenes which I'll never see otherwise. So I headed to Emily's house and handed her a bouquet. She said yes. Don't worry, I'll be divorcing them all later. The goal is to 100% mega modded Stardew Valley after all. Back on Ginger Island, I select the Skull Cavern Invasion quest. This means powerful monsters will now flood Skull Cavern, and I need to reach floor 100 in one piece to earn 40 key gems. I also picked up the Tropical Fish special order from Willy, which requires me to catch 5 lionfish, 5 blue discus, and 5 stingrays. Not too bad. By 4 PM I've caught the lionfish, but decide to finish the quest another day, since tonight is the first night of the night market. God, how many times did I just say night? Of course, while I was here I decided to grab the new painting, and of course a Junimo catalogue from the travelling car. In Ridgeside, I meet back up with Belinda and her crew after completing the colourful crystal quest a few nights ago. Belinda uses the objects we had gathered to free the mountain spirit, who will help us enter the spirit realm. Although I still have no idea why I would even want to go there in the first place. After some intense spell work, we succeeded. The spirit's name is Recolour, which I am definitely pronouncing wrong, and she has an incredible design. She reveals that she, Belinda, and my grandmother once opened a portal to the spirit realm a long time ago. The reason I should help? A growing corruption is apparently spreading across the valley, which explains the increased monster activity in the backwoods, and I, sharing my grandmother's connection, must venture there to stop it. Recolour explains that they once tried to stop the corruption with my grandmother, but failed. My grandmother returned with an unknown sickness and passed away soon after. Overwhelming but fascinating. I need to do whatever it takes to avenge her and save this valley. Why? Because I'm one of the idiots that live here. Of course this wasn't going to be easy, and it meant another tough fetch quest. I had to find 9 unique items and place them on pedestals to reopen the portal. If you remember the preparation grind from 200 days, you will know we're in for the long haul. For now it's getting late, and with this newfound knowledge, the rest of my 300-day journey is about to get a lot more interesting. Compared to yesterday, day 212 is much less eventful. I return to Ginger Island to finish Willy's Tropical Fish quest. This takes up most of today, and by 8 PM I'm finally heading back home. Before the night ends, I make bold plans for tomorrow. I wanted to dive into the Skull Cavern to complete Mr. Key's invasion quest. So I stock up my inventory with food, and I also stop by the dwarf to purchase a ridiculous amount of mega bombs. At dawn on day 213, I waste no time racing to the desert. With 100 floors to clear, every second counts. The cavern is brutal, especially with the stronger monsters now lurking inside, but thanks to the mega bombs and magic rock candy, I managed to reach floor 100 by 4 PM. My reward? My first galaxy soul. If I collect 3, I can forge the most powerful sword in the game. I would have stayed longer, but tonight is the final day of the night market, so I had to take some time to check it out before it disappears for the year. The first task of day 214 is clearing up the old storage area. It looks ugly and out of place. I also continue decorating my storage shed, adding furnaces, more crystallarians, and some recycling machines, which ends up taking most of the day. In the evening I take a break from the Spirit Realm drama and visit the movie theatre. This time I invite Kiara from Ridgeside. It's a Christmas movie, fitting for the season, and a nice escape from the usual grind. Day 215 starts at Robin's, where I commission another silo. My animals are burning through hay at an alarming rate, and I need some more storage for the winter months. Today is also Marlin's birthday, so I handed him a red slime egg. Knowing Marlon, he'll find good use for it. On Ginger Island, I spend most of my remaining golden walnuts on key gems. With everything rebuilt, there is not much to use them for. You remember how I said I was saving for the 2000 key gem book? Well, I couldn't resist buying the horse flute today, which allows me to summon the horse anywhere. That's just too useful not to pick up. I also decided to pick up some fertilizer attachments, and Mr. Key's hat, because, why not? The rest of the day is spent decorating the farm with new paths and grass. Today, day 216, is Evelyn's birthday, so I'll make sure she gets a diamond. I also visit the wizard to move some buildings around, relocating the winery and decorating it with paths, fences and grass. The farm looks amazing. I'm sure I won't change it again and mess it up later. Today was Pika's birthday, and of course the first mission was to hand him a Ridge apple, upping him to 5 hearts. Being a Sunday meant the desert trader would now trade jades for staircases, so that's a deal I just couldn't refuse. A new mod I added in 300 days was Rose in the Sand, which would allow Sandy to become romanceable, which was certainly a random one, but this is what mega modded means, right? This meant I could hand her a bouquet this morning, allowing her to be my girlfriend. At Robin's, I asked her to commission me a new shed. I would place it here for now, but would certainly move it later. I wanted a place to fill with animal machines, and this new shed was exactly that, although it wouldn't be ready to use for a few more days. In the storage shed, I added some more decorations, such as a fireplace and some plants. I had totally forgotten about the museum for a very long time, so today I took over 300 geodes to Clint's to slowly open as many as I could, without my brain melting to an ice cream, to get all of the minerals I had yet to find. Of course, as you can imagine, this process took a very long time, but just after 2 PM I had donated all the minerals I needed, with only a few artifacts left, which annoyingly, I had no clue what or where they were. Here we are, another fresh week and the last week of the winter season. In Pelican Town there was a new special order from Joja Mart, which tasked me to hand out 30 Joja Cola, which I could never take as everyone hates it. The bookseller was back in town, and although I had purchased all of his books in 200 days, he sold a new one called The Book of Carols, which would help me spread Christmas joy. Okay? And after reading it, it told me I learned some carols. Sure. Back in Mr. Key's walnut room, I chose Key's prismatic grange, which would challenge me to place 100 of a certain set of colours into his box. After finding a secret note in the Skull Caverns, I took a battery pack to this power box in the road tunnel, to which I received a letter telling me to bring a rainbow shell to the train station. And after doing that, I was told to place 10 beets in Mayor Lewis's fridge. However, I didn't have any of them on me right now, so I'd have to put that quest on hold for now. I took to finish the rest of the day decorating the new storage shed, and this is how it looked in the end. Not too bad considering I'm terrible at designing. Day 219, I had finally remembered that I placed some goat's cheese in the casks in my basement, so I could collect them, which they had aged enough to turn into iridium quality, which sold for around 50,000 gold, not too bad. Today the shed had finished building, so I headed right back to Robin's to ask her to upgrade it to a big one. Winter 23 was Leah's birthday, and luckily for me, goat's cheese is a love gift for her, so I had loads to hand her. I headed to the desert to purchase some beets for the quest, but unfortunately, because of the Rose of the Sands mod, she now leaves the oasis every now and then, and conveniently, she was leaving right as I arrived. Great. Something I had added to my to-do list was cooking. As with Ridgeside and Stardew Valley expanded, I'd now had a load more cooking recipes to do, so I thought I'd allocate some time every now and then to cook some more. This obviously consisted of going back and forth from the shed to the cooker. Before I turned into the day, I cooked around 5 more recipes. Day 220 marks 20 days into the 300-day mega modded journey, and with winter slowly coming to a close, there's still some time left before the end of my 2nd year, so it was all hands on decks today. Today I ran into Bliss again, who informed me about some strange occurrences that were happening near the abandoned greenhouse in Ridgeside. She urged me to return at midnight to witness the mystery firsthand. While I was there, I also discovered that the travelling cart was in Ridgeside on Wednesdays. After 220 days in this series, I can't believe I never knew that. Sandy was finally in the shop today, allowing me to purchase the beets I needed, along with some other spring crops and some cactus, which after planting in the shed looked great. Can't wait till they fully grow. Before the day ended, I headed to Ginger Island to plant some coffee. I had some bold plans to grow enough coffee for endless triple shot espressos, and for future special orders. I also planted some tea trees while I was there, and of course the beets with some deluxe speed grow. My first pineapples had matured, so I put them straight into the seed maker to multiply them. My goal is an entire island of pineapples. It was late, but I managed to plant them all before turning in. Of course, I returned to the abandoned greenhouse at midnight, as Bliss suggested. Strangely, it was no longer ruined, it was fully rebuilt. Upon entering, a mysterious voice asked me to stay, and I suddenly passed out. skipping the day entirely and waking up back on the farm the next morning. Day 221 was the Feast of the Winter Star. This year, my secret gift giver was Anton, whom I barely knew, but I tracked him down and gifted him some spaghetti. In return, my secret gift giver this year was Lorenzo, who handed me 10 deluxe speed grow. Wow, what a letdown. Last year, Kenneth gave me 30 battery packs, so my expectations were high. Oh well, it's the thought that counts. Regardless, it was great seeing everyone at the festival. Day 222 brought the completion of my upgraded shed, so I finally began decorating it. I planned to convert it into an animal shed, maximising efficiency and profit. It took all day to settle on a design, but I also constructed a bunch of preserve jars to turn my fruit trees harvest into jelly. Additionally, I crafted a juicer, a new machine from the Cornucopia mod that turns fruit into juice, similar to kegs. After setting up, I processed all the animal products I had saved into cheese and mayonnaise. I also made butter churns for producing butter, which will be useful for cooking later. As if today couldn't get any better, when I turned in for the night I received a message. Sophia had given birth to a baby girl. I named her Kim, because why not? Day 223 felt different, with a new little one in the farmhouse. My day started at the Ridgeside mansion, where Louis, one of the snobby rich kids, forced me to be his servant for the day, including making him a sandwich. I was there to celebrate Irene's birthday, however, gifting her a ridge apple. Leaving the mansion, I saw Louis reluctantly playing with Trini and Kahi. At least he was socialising instead of bossing me around. Later, I received another star drop from Sophia after maxing our hearts out. That means I'm now only 2 away from collecting them all. 1 for catching every fish, and 1 for completing the museum. Day 224 meant another dive into Skull Caverns. It was as brutal as ever, but by 10 PM I reached floor 156 before calling it quits. This trip restocked my chests with valuable resources like copper and stone. Winter 28, however, marks the final day of the season, and we all gathered in Ridgeside for the Ember of Resolutions. And as the bonfire burned, I reflected on all I have achieved in my second year. But despite 224 days in, 100% completion was still very far away. Before the day ended, my grandfather's ghost decided to visit me. He told me he was proud of my progress, and now could finally rest. It was a heartwarming moment, and just as I was about to sleep, Sophia woke me, excited to show me a fairy garden in the morning. Strange, just let me sleep. And with that, my 3rd year in the valley has begun. The new spring season brought a fresh wave of work and plans for massive progress. I was still miles away from perfection, so I had to focus on the present right now. Most of my fruit trees had grown, adding a unique aesthetic to the farm. This season I aim to plant as many crops as possible. The Cornucopia mod introduced an overwhelming variety of crops, but I wanted to grow as many as possible. Planting and watering these new crops took most of the day, as you can imagine, but the results look amazing. Plus, with the Junimo huts active again, harvesting will be made much easier. Day 226 started with another meeting with Bliss outside the abandoned greenhouse. She revealed that it was cursed with a lone trapped entity inside, and I had to return at midnight once again to figure out how to help it. In Pelican Town I picked up a crop order from Mayor Lewis, which told me to ship 100 green beans. I also decided to send off my trash can for an upgrade to gold, because why not? I then visited Blue Moon Vineyard where Sophia excitedly showed me her new fairy garden, which was stunning. She told me she couldn't have done it without me, and we spent some time admiring it. At Key's Walnut Room, I accepted Key's Hungry Challenge, reaching floor 100 of the Skull Caverns without eating or drinking. I also bought Key's Notebook, which increases the chance of finding random key gems, which was a crucial boost if I hope to get the 2000 before I retire. With my coffee plants growing fast, I harvested another batch of it and planted another row. Soon, I'd have an unlimited supply of it. My beets had fully grown, so I rode Nessie to Mayor Lewis's fridge to place them inside, triggering the final task, feeding the dragon one last meal. I rode through the vast desert and handed the bone dragon a solar essence, then was instructed to check my lumber pile at home for the reward. Before doing that, I used my stockpile of staircases, over 100 of them, to reach floor 100 of the Skull Caverns, pretty much instantly, completing Key's challenge on the same day I accepted it. Later, I joined Paula, Kiara and some others for a drinking game. Just water, of course. It was fun, but my real reason for being in Ridgeside was to investigate the greenhouse mystery. After some discussion, I received a new quest called A Second Chance, requiring me to collect 25 mountain mist blooms, 10 sweet gem berries, and 5 rubies. A serious challenge. Day 227 began with a visit from the wizard, who introduced me to his new apprentice, Morgan, who I'd meet soon. My island farm had gotten messy, so I expanded my pineapple fields and added some pressure nozzles from Blue Moon Vineyard for better sprinkler efficiency. I checked my lumber pile and found the reward, the club card, which granted access to the casino. I also expanded my cellar with some more kegs today, though I'm sure someone in the comments will tell me that my layout is inefficient. Oh well. Day 228 was rainy. I also discovered that the hot spring area on my farm naturally regrows hardwood trees and seasonal forage. I picked up my gold trash can from Clint and immediately sent it off for an iridium upgrade. The first order of business today was to head up to the wizard's tower to finally meet Morgan. It was nice to see another new NPC in the town, and under the protection of the wizard, he should be alright. The rest of today was spent cooking more recipes. I needed to get some out of the way, so why not spend today doing some? Today I was back up in Ridgeside with Alyssa this time. She wanted to show me her singing voice, to which we was interrupted by Lenny, who suggested that she should perform in front of the entire town. Of course, Alyssa didn't like this, but it'd be nice to see it. Spring 7 marked the end of my first week in the spring. The rain had cleared and my crops were thriving. It was Mayor Lewis's birthday, and I reluctantly gifted him something. Relationships were progressing quite well now. With a stockpile of jades, I traded them for staircases. I greeted Sandy and used my new club card to enter the casino. Mr. Key congratulated me on getting in. Checking out the shop, I was very tempted by the Statue of Treasure, so I tried my luck at the slot machines. The best thing about gambling in the casino is there's no real life fears of losing money. But luck wasn't on my side today, so I decided to try again later. I was running low on stuff I wanted to do, so I worked on some Monster Slayer goals, mainly dust sprites for the Burglar's Ring. With Monster Musk, I quickly checked off the dust sprites and the skeletons, securing the Burglar's Ring before midnight. It was the day my canola flowers were ready, as well as a bunch more new crops. As previously mentioned, I'm trying to store most of these items I don't have use for yet. Well, until I have a use for them. After handing Sandy another gift yesterday, she was finally at 10 hearts, which means I could offer her a mermaid's pendant and ask her to marry me. Of course, she said yes, and the event will happen in 3 days. As I said, I want to get the best experience from all these mods, so I'll be marrying each of them to showcase each of their exclusive events and items. Don't worry, I'll divorce them all later. Today, however, I chose to venture back to the Highlands outpost. Marlon had took me in the 200 days, where I met back up with Lance, who told me about monster crops, which there are apparently 4 of them, and he would like me to find them all and gift them him. But that did mean traversing the challenging highlands filled with dangerous monsters. To assist me in my journey, Lance had sent me a whole crate of life elixirs, which should arrive in the morning, so the smart thing would be is to wait until tomorrow to use them to help me. Or I could traverse the highlands with truffles and coffee. Of course the highlands were tough, and it didn't take too long until I had barely gotten anywhere, when my health was brought too low for comfort. The first enemies I saw were these slimes and cyclops things, which certainly packed a punch. Not too long later I checked my inventory to see I had 2 seeds, the stalk and the slime seed, which must have been dropped by enemies. So that meant I already had 2 out of the 4 seasonal monster crops Lance needed. And so I thought, the further I traversed, the more tougher the monsters would be, but also where the rest of the seeds were. I managed to reach this area filled with these jumping mushroom things, as well as a crazy amount of enemies to the point where my game was actually lagging. Of course, it was at this point I knew how unprepared I was, and it didn't take too long for me to pass out. I woke back at Lance's outpost, barely hanging on, and I didn't want to take any chances, so I headed straight to bed. However, I checked my inventory to find I found another monster seed, which meant I only had to find 1 more to finish the quest. Although the Highlands was very tough and was to be taken seriously from now on. And after last night's tough adventure, I needed to unwind and unload my inventory, which was packed with the loot I gathered from the Highlands. First stop, Clint's, to pick up my iridium trash can. That meant I had upgraded every tool possible. But today something strange happened. I ran into a little kid named Pippo and their Junimo companion, Little Acorn. 2 characters I'd never seen before, not even listed in the friendship tab. Some people to keep an eye on. On Ginger Island it was time for another coffee harvest. With all the plants set up, I could finally start brewing triple shot espressos. While I was here I planted 3 of the monster crops I'd found yesterday, just 1 more to complete the set. Back in the walnut room I picked up the Skull Cavern invasion quest again. With my solid stash of staircases, this challenge was going to be a breeze. Later I tried my luck at the casino again. After burning way too much time and cash, I had to call it quits. These slots just never pay out. On a brighter note, I could now access the Statue of Perfection after Grandpa's perfect farm rating. A steady supply of iridium ore? Yes please. Inside the winery, another massive batch of ancient fruit was ready. Yes, of course I'm still doing this. When you're running a heavily modded farm, you're gonna need an insane amount of gold. While the kegs were empty, I threw my fresh coffee beans in there to stock up on that delicious caffeine. We started with a surprise, a gift in the mail for my Junimos. They wrote that they'd been working extra hard to grow these crops for me. That was sweet. Back in the winery I collected 15 coffees, enough to craft 5 triple shots. Not too bad. Speaking of coffee, even more was ready on Ginger Island, along with some pineapples, which I immediately turned into seeds. A few days ago I accepted May Lewis's crop order quest, requiring me to ship and harvest 100 green beans. To get a head start, I bought a ton of seeds from Pierre's and planted as many as I could on the farm. The final chore of the day was expanding my pineapple farm on Ginger Island. With each new harvest, filled it more and more. I was almost done with this grind now. Wedding day today, it had been 3 days since I proposed to Sandy, so today we finally tied the knot. Slightly awkwardly though, Sophia was here in her wedding dress. I can explain. With that out the way, I focused on finishing the Skull Cavern invasion quest. I mostly used staircases because, honestly, I wasn't about to take on those ridiculously strong enemies. While mining, I also gathered some radioactive ore, a rare material only found in the invaded Skull Caverns. It's useful for crafting powerful items like the Heavy Tapper later down the line. Late at night I ran into Paula from Ridgeside on the hiking trail. She couldn't sleep, so she asked me to keep her company. She opened up about her feelings for Anton, how she's loved him since childhood, but never had the courage to tell him. Instead of encouraging her to confess, I just told her to sit back and enjoy the night sky. I was at the top of the volcano, where I combined some rings at the forge. If you didn't know, you can combine rings here to wear more than just 2. I infused my iridium band with my lucky ring for just 20 cinder shards. It freed up a spot for my burglar's ring. Back on the farm, some overgrown debris and grass needed clearing. While tidying up, I expanded the paths and set up a new area for my obelisks to go. I originally planned to use this space for more animals, but for now, it was perfect for fast travel. I also moved the beach obelisk here. These designs are looking good, right? Spring 13? Of course, it meant it was time for the Egg Festival. And for the 3rd year in a row, I was determined to win. Losing to Jazz and Vincent every year had been infuriating, but today was different. I kicked off with a visit to the wizard to construct my second obelisk, the Earth Obelisk, which would allow me to teleport to the mountains anytime I wanted. Next up was my weekly desert trip to trade jades for staircases. It was also Hayley's birthday today, so I gifted her a sunflower, one of her favourites, and it boosted our friendship up to 8 hearts. Over in Ridgeside, I gave Paula a bouquet. The biggest step in my 300-day journey started today, opening the portal to the spirit realm. No more waiting. So I rode Nessie to the backwoods to meet Lara again. She gave me some advice on how to find the necessary items we needed, saying she looked forward to our next meeting. Of course, I had zero clue where to start. My best bet was fishing. Since new fish were swimming around in the backwoods, I figured I might reeling something useful. Of course I had no luck, but I did manage to catch 2 new fish, but neither helped with the portal. Later I stopped by Gio's cabin to search for clues about the required items I needed. The hints were super vague, but one stood out, the elven comb, which was supposedly buried near an abandoned building on the hike trail. That was somewhere I knew where it was. And after riding there I started digging, and there it was. 1 down, 8 to go. I wanted to dive straight back into the Spirit Realm quest, But a new week meant more chores. More coffee and pineapple harvesting, plus picking up Mr. Key's new mission. This time I chose Key's Kindness, which required me to hand out 50 love gifts in a week. Before I could get back to the portal, the Desert Festival had arrived. Unfortunately, there weren't any cool items worth grinding for this year. So instead, I spent hours turning my freshly harvested pineapples into more pineapple seeds. The grind for this was nearly over, which was quite exciting. I'm once again back at the festival today to check out the traders, but unfortunately, nothing good. At least I had fun at the fashion tent. Emily and Sandy had picked out a winter outfit for me. Pretty ironic, considering we are nowhere near winter. But, being the weirdo I am, I decided to wear it permanently. Later I met up with Hayley on the beach, who had lost her grandmother's bracelet, and after searching around for a bit I found it. She was of course over the moon. I spent the rest of the day grinding the Key's Kindness quest, handing out as many love gifts as I could. Also, another batch of wine was ready. Time to restock the kegs with even more coffee beans. Infinite coffee? Here I come. Today was however Beatrice's birthday, so I handed her a love gift. Beatrice was the owner of the lighthouse in East Scarp, and was someone I was very interested in learning more about as we progress. Today was the final day of the Desert Festival, and again was very disappointing, and the stores were the exact same as another day, so there wasn't any new items, but a shame. Hopefully next year's will be much better. This love gift quest proves quite a grind, and so I spent the rest of the day riding around giving more gifts. I'm greeted by Leah, who handed me her sculpture, which was nice of her. Not just that, I received a very bright letter from Mr. Key, which commended me on reaching 10 million gold in total earnings, and as a reward, he gave me a golden piggy bank. After placing it in the house, every time I clicked it, it would put 1 gold in at a time. Very strange, why would I even want to do this in the first place? Perhaps if I put a certain amount of money in, I'll get a reward. If someone knows its true purpose, please let me know. Yet more gift giving today, finally wrapping up the quest after a tough grind. Back on the Ginger Island, I had yet another pineapple and coffee harvest, but more importantly, 2 of the monster crops had finally grown, giving me a slime berry and a weird mushroom looking thing. In the evening I met up with Sandy at the pier, where we shared a nice moment and we watched the night change from the beach. But I was still planting at 1 AM on Ginger Island though. With all the pineapples, this is what it looks now. When they're all grown, I'll be able to start placing them in dehydrators for more profits. I headed back to the island to refine the path around the pineapples, making it much neater. The coffee I placed in the kegs yesterday was finally ready, yielding over 60 cups of it. Naturally, I replaced them with more coffee beans, ensuring an endless supply of triple shot espressos whenever I needed them. While passing Marnie's, I met up with Hayley, who suggested we take some photos with the cows. As expected, it ended in total disaster. We got covered in mud, much to my amusement. Later, I returned to the abandoned vineyard, where the Junimo apples had something to show me. Apples handed me an old vineyard wine, which I used to create another warp in my Nexus. It seems random, but it would be useful for quick access to this part of the map. Upon opening the warp, a new path appeared in the forest. Following it, I stumbled upon a beautiful spring, where I could swim around in the water. On the other side, I spotted some blue jazzes and tulips, and behind the waterfall, I found a hidden room filled with ancient fruits and purple mushrooms. Certainly a pleasant surprise. Before nightfall, I uncovered another secret path leading to the bears in the woods. They had a shop selling fir wax, birch water, and some other artisan items. This was the first time, however, I found fir wax, which was the key ingredient for crafting the premium barns and coops. Unfortunately, the bear only had 3 of them in stock, and I needed 30 each for each barn. I returned to the backwoods in search of more mountain mist blooms for the spirit trapped in the abandoned greenhouse. I needed 25 of them. These rare items could only be obtained from the giant purple serpents that roamed around this area. After being here the whole day, I managed to collect 21 out of 25. But with no time to return home, I decided to spend the night in the log cabin, ensuring an early start the next morning. After a relaxing night in the log cabin, I headed back to the backwoods, and I finally got all the mist blooms I needed. With that task done, I headed back to the casino to finally acquire the Statue of Treasure. This time I decided to play the card game, which had better payouts, and I was able to earn enough quite quickly. Over on Ginger Island, my sweet gem berries were ready for harvest, though I still needed some more for the Spirit in the Greenhouse quest. Later, I visited Geo's cabin to pick up a new quest. This one involved finding hidden waterfalls, which I was fairly certain I'd already found. I also spent an hour waiting by the fox statue in the woods, following one of the portal clues from his book in the cabin. Sure enough, the patience paid off, and I received a fox mask. 7 more items to go till I opened the portal. The bookseller returned today, offering yet another book I hadn't found yet. The Book of Altruism. Reading it would allow villagers to accept more than just 2 gifts per week, a powerful tool, especially with the Key's Kindness quest. It was Eloise's birthday, so I made sure to hand her a love gift. Being a Monday meant a new quest from Mr. Key's Walnut Room, and funnily enough, it was Key's Kindness, aligning perfectly with the new book I just found. In Pelican Town, I picked up a special order from the wizard, requesting ectoplasm from some ghosts. Unfortunately, my luck was terrible today, and it took the entire rest of the night before I finally got one at midnight. My coffee was ready inside the winery this morning, but I decided to switch things up by brewing some green tea using the tea saplings from Ginger Island. I needed 20 of them to purchase a particular book from the bookseller next time he was in town. I headed to the wizard's tower to deliver the ectoplasm, but before I could, I was interrupted by a cutscene. The wizard explained that the mysterious area I had discovered a few nights ago was the Sprite Spring, one of the valley's hidden magical secrets. Later in the day, I celebrated Andy's birthday with a gift before taking Magnus, the wizard, to see the new spring movie. Unfortunately, it appeared to be a documentary, and he quickly dozed off. I don't blame him. Afterward, he was visibly unimpressed. Upon returning to his tower, I witnessed him being swarmed by Junimos, which was quite funny to witness, to say the least. However, my real reason for being here was that I finally reached 8 hearts with him, so I could hand him a bouquet. Of course he accepted. Spring 24, as you would all know, is the day of the flower dance. This year, I had plenty of options, given the many friendships I had formed over the past 300 days. This year I chose to dance with Isabel for a change, boosting our friendship together. Unfortunately, this meant Sophia and Abigail had to watch from the sidelines. Back to the normal routine today, handing out gifts and progressing Mr. Key's quest. I also completed Geo's quest by visiting the hidden waterfalls in the backwoods, which gave me 2,000 gold as a reward. Later, I visited Beatrice once again at her lighthouse. She showed me around, she even took me to the top, where I enjoyed a stunning view of the ocean, even seeing some birds fly. She also confided in me about losing her husband. While in Scarp, I wandered into a beachside cave and met Lexi, a strange sea creature who spoke English. After our conversation, she appeared in my friendship list, meaning even more people to befriend now. And finally, we have reached day 250, the official halfway mark of the 300 days challenge. The next 50 days will be the craziest yet, so stay tuned. I would just like to say if you're enjoying the video, a like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated. And as we approach the end of this mega modded series, let me know what you'd like to see next. A new series, challenge videos, I'm all ears. Now, less talking, and let's get back into it. Day 250 was an interesting day. Caroline sent me a letter containing The Art of Cultivation, a book that enhances the growth of tea saplings. I have to say, the More Books mod is incredible. I'd highly recommend it. My green beans were ready for harvest, providing me with enough to complete Mayor Lewis's crop order. With that done, I started to redesign my farm. I decided to move the farmhouse and the greenhouse, placing sheds in their spots instead. I'm not sure why, but I suddenly decided to do this midway through the series, but you know, why not? The farm redesign continued today. I decided to remove the tree farm to expand my crop fields. It was a shame to see it go, but I rarely used it now, and the space was way more valuable. Just a reminder, by the end of the 300 days, I will never need space again. You'll see what I mean. Most of the day was spent laying out the expanded crop field, which was shaping up to be 10 times better than before. And overnight, Sophia gave birth to another girl. I decided to name her Pop. This morning I was greeted by Camilla, the witch I had met previously, and she teleported me to my nexus, which she was certainly impressed by. But that wasn't the reason she was here. She needed my help with something insane. She transported me to a mysterious sandy place with a tower which resembled lances. This was Galdora, a land filled with dangerous enemies. The outpost bordered the Crimson Badlands, and she wanted me to fight here to uncover its secrets. Before leaving, she allowed me to set up another warp, which granted quick access from my own nexus. I was very eager to return when the time was right. But for now though, I had to finish Key's kindness quest, as today was the final day. After I finished that, I returned to the farm to continue decorating in preparation for the new summer season. Unfortunately, that's how I spent the last day of spring. Still so much decorating left to do, but for now, on to the next season. Day 253 marks the beginning of the wonderful summer season. As with every other start of the season, it was spent clearing debris and getting rid of the old crops that had withered overnight. Of course, the farm was still looking quite messy, but don't worry, with a bit of work over the next few days, it will be back to normality. The first special order of the season was from Olivia, which tasked me to donate 10 bottles of wine, 10 goat's cheese and 10 normal cheese to her cellar. Back on Ginger Island, my hard work with the pineapples had finally paid off, as the entire island was completely filled with them. Look how good they look. Yet again I chose another key quest, this time Key's Prismatic Grange. Of course I hadn't had the time today to set up my dehydrators for the pineapples, so I decided to store them all in chests, and yet again I wrapped up the day continuing to decorate the farm. Day 254 I was adding the final touches to my new crop area. I still wanted to build another Junimo hut, but this is how it looked in the end. Beautiful. Unfortunately, nothing new happened today, just more decorating. And for some reason I decided to move the chests back outside again, but this time it was only going to be the more important items that were outside, and the more overflowy items would be back in the shed. Day 255, I'm back at Robin's to purchase myself a workbench. I've never used one of these before, but after seeing how good it is, I will never be able to live without one. While I was in there, I also asked her to build me yet another new shed. I wasn't sure why, the farm was already quite crowded. The remainder of the day was spent moving all the important items to their new chests, while smelting all the ores I had laying around at the same time. Day 256, I headed back to Ginger Island to create a new area for my dehydrators to go. Each dried pineapple sells for nearly 5,000 gold each. After spending so much time decorating, I hadn't had enough time to keg my ancient fruits, so in the afternoon I made sure to get them back and going once again. After all these new buildings and farm decorations, I was extremely low on wood, so I spent the rest of today in the expanded Cindersap forest chopping as many trees as I could, even passing out at 2 AM. Day 257, I realised I could remove the furniture from the winery in the mod options, which meant I could place over 75 more kegs, so laying them out took away my morning. The batch of dried pineapples was ready today. I collected 30 of them, which sells for 90,000 gold. Told you it'd be worth it. Yet again I'm back at the carpenter's shop to ask her to upgrade my shed to a big one. I had plans to fill it with fish tanks to store all my unique and rare fish, my own little aquarium. I still had Key's Prismatic Grange to finish, and the easiest method to get 100 blue items was to buy 100 Jojo Colas from the vending machine, which took a very long time. Day 258, I was back on Ginger Island to collect more dried pineapples and to drop off all the items I needed to finish the key quest. The new kegs I had placed yesterday, I filled it with more coffee beans. The more the merrier. I wanted to get working on the Spirits Realm quest, so I headed to Geo's cabin to work out some more clues. One of the clues was to hit a picture of a dancer, and my instinct was the log cabin. And after scanning all floors, right at the top I found the picture and received the music box. Only 6 more items to go. Back at the cabin was the Forgotten Hero, which told me to fish upon the Riches well, which seemed easy enough, and so I headed back to the mansion in Ridgeside and fished upon the well to receive the Hero Village sculpture. Another one of the items showed me a picture of the water near Tort's home, and wouldn't you know it, after fishing there I received the Sapphire Pearl, another portal item. As if the day of treasure hunting couldn't get any better, I found another one by the bench, which meant I only had 3 more items to go. What a day of searching. The Spirits Realm was not ready. Day 259 was 7 days into the summer season, and I'd remembered that I hadn't planted any crops yet. So I headed straight to Pierre's to purchase over 300 watermelon seeds. Typically, it took a long time to water them and get them into the ground. But my crop fields looked great once again once I was done. It was Scarlet's birthday again, so I made sure to hand her a chocolate cake. The end of the day was spent back in the casino, playing some cards, in the hopes of getting the rare crow for 10,000 key tokens. Being the gambling master I am, I got it in record time. And before the end of the day I filled more kegs with coffee. Day 260 was the day of mine and Emily's wedding. And of course I didn't mention it, but to be honest I'm just trying to do this as much as possible, and the more I keep mentioning it, the more boring it will get. These were all the people now attending my wedding, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. This week I picked up Danger in the Deep, which was a tougher Mr. Key quest, as I had to reach floor 120 in the normal mines after it was invaded by monsters. Luckily for me though, I had saved over 180 staircases, so it wasn't too tough to navigate to the bottom. I received 50 key gems as the reward. Low on wood once again, I was back to the Cindersap forest to chop every single tree I could find. Day 261, I'm back to Gio's cabin to finally try and get the items I needed for Belinda to reopen the portal to the spirit realm. One of the clues looked like the cable car, so after some attempts I still couldn't find it. Back in the backwoods I had a cutscene with Corrine, who appears to be on the radar of Gio. Apparently he sees some potential in her and offers to train her. I was determined to find these items, so I thought perhaps if it wasn't the Ridgeside cable car, it might be the Pelican Town one. But yet again I couldn't find it. At Nightingale Orchard, I found the Everfrost stone from chopping the wall in just this area, with only 2 more now to find. I was really struggling to find this one around the cable car. I even managed to get behind it somehow, and still nothing. This one really tested my patience. But finally, after hours and hours, I found it behind the Pelican Town cable car. Thank God. And finally, after watering the statue inside the spiritual greenhouse, I received a pale chandelerium, whatever, which was the final item I needed, which meant I could summon the portal to the spirit realm. Day 262 was a big one. I rode Nessie across to the backwoods, where they had told me to place the items, although I was unsure on what order they should go in. But I did notice that a small blue light glows whenever I place the correct item on the correct pedestal, and after some playing around, I placed them all in the correct place. Belinda and everyone else was here, all ready to finally open the portal to the spirit realm and begin fighting the corruption that is apparently taking over this land. They informed me that I would have to travel alone however, as the corruption would overtake them, and Lara would let me know some tips on how to navigate this tough land. She told me that by touching crystals, and each time you touch them, it would transport you somewhere random. And in order to cleanse the corruption, I had to extinguish 5 purple flames. And after a deep breath, I entered it. Arriving in this strange land was nothing like I'd ever seen before. It was filled with the same corrupted enemies that lived in the backwoods. After touching my first couple crystals, I realised how tough this was going to be. Every time you touch one, it acts as a maze. Touching the same one twice brings you somewhere different. But funnily enough, after running around trying as many combinations as I could, I finally reached my first flame, and using my watering can, I put it out. Now only 4 more to go until I save this world. For now though, I had no food or healing items on me, so I made my way back and planned to come more prepared another day. Day 263, unfortunately, I couldn't return to the Spirits Realm, as today was the festival of the Luau, and I made sure to collect some goat's cheese. Well, that's what I would say, if I didn't leave it behind so I had nothing to put in the pot. The only thing I had was coffee, which funnily enough, they loved it. Day 264, I headed to the Wizard's Tower to build my 3rd obelisk, the Desert Obelisk, for 1 million gold, 10 coconuts, 10 cactus fruits, and 10 iridium bars. Do you remember that strange sea monster who lived in East Scarp? Well, it was apparently her birthday today, so I gave her a gift upping her to 4 hearts. Of course, I was very excited to return to the Spirits Realm today. This time I was way more prepared. The second flame I found at the peak of the mountain at around 3 PM. As usual, it was confusing as this comes, but around 4 PM I found my way to the 3rd flame and extinguished it. Strange enough, it only took another 2 hours to find the 4th flame. The last one, however, was the toughest to find, but after some tough fighting and running for my life, around 8 PM, I finally found it and extinguished the final flame, freeing the world from corruption. After putting out the last flame, the world completely changed around me, turning into a brighter and much happier place. No more purple and no more monsters. Before I left, the nice spirits thanked me. The valley is now saved. On my return back to the valley, Belinda and Recolour were waiting for me, and we all celebrated my success. I was told that they were all leaving now, and that if I wanted to speak to them, I could throw an item into the waters. Both Daya and Geo also informed me that they were sticking around now, but this meant I could unlock marriage with them if I wanted to. Before she left, Recolour told me that there was a farm at the summit of the mountain in Ridgeside Village, and some couple who lived up there had been trapped, and so I should check on them to see how they're doing. So I took the long trip up to the farm. However, it was entirely overgrown, and there was no sign of life, and in all honesty, it looked like no one had been up here for ages. Little did I know that this was now left to me, this completely huge plot with a house where I could build and do whatever I wanted with it. I could pretty much move to Ridgeside now. Just keep on waiting to see how insane this gets. Talking about how exciting things get, on day 265 I received a letter from Odd Jobs, which told me that I'd had some new land and I could renovate it if I like, which sounded exciting to say the least. Of course this intrigued me a lot, and after checking it out, I could make the summit house like new, inside and out, for 150,000 gold, 500 wood, 500 hardwood and 250 stone. Can't wait for that. Today was summer 13 and was Kiara's birthday, so I decided to hand her a rabbit's foot. I definitely didn't have the 500 pieces of hardwood, so I headed up to the summit farm to mine the stumps that were up there. In order to get all the hardwood I needed, I had some plans to build a hardwood tree farm. The best location I could think of doing this was the desert, as there was plenty of open space. So I cleared out the trees and forageables and placed as many of them as I could, not forgetting to cover them in tree fertilizer to make them grow much quicker. I also remembered that the hot spring can now spawn hardwood trees, so I decided to mine them down too. I realised that I could now use the minecarts to travel up to the summit farm, which was nice and convenient, and made it so I wouldn't have to traverse the backwoods just to get there. The morning of day 266 I was helping out Pika with some stocking of his food stores. Kehi was supposed to help out, but had been running late, so I chose to lend a hand. It had been some time since Robin had finished building my new shed, so for now I did a bit of decorating and placed the fish tanks I had. This is how it looked in the end. I still had plenty more to add in here. Day 267 was the annual return of the Green Rain event. At this stage it wasn't too useful, so I practically tried to ignore it, something I would definitely regret doing later. Yet another harvest of my pineapples was the order this morning, as well as picking up Key's kindness quest once again. Don't forget I needed the 2,000 key gems, and at the moment I was only on 240, so yeah, I needed to do these, and I was very far away. I chose today would be the perfect time to work on some more cooking recipes. I would need to cook every single one to 100% everything, and with the crazy amount of them, why not spend some time working on them today? I made 8 more new recipes, and I began handing out some love gifts to complete the key quest. Day 268 was Lenny's birthday, so I gave her an iridium quality snow yam, which for some reason is loved by her. Back in the log cabin I met up with Isabel, and we had a small, nice heart-to-heart dance session, which was very nice, but we both enjoyed it. This was of course her 10 heart event, which meant I could ask her to marry me when I saw her again. Back on the farm I was in the perfection mood, so I used my new trusty workbench to craft as many new items as possible. As you would know, I need to craft all of them to achieve 100% perfection. This morning I received a new book from Clint which will provide me with a discount on all his items at his shop, which was nice, and I come to realise that most of the new books that I was missing would come from maxing out hearts with villagers. The day was spent handing out more gifts for the key quest, but I also had a cutscene with Magnus, to which he teleported me to Greenville Falls, which just looked beautiful, and was apparently another secret area in the valley. The main reason he wanted to come here was so that we can have a romantic picnic, which was quite nice. Day 270, the bookseller was back in town, and using the 20 green tea I had collected, I could finally buy the haste guide, which would increase my movement speed, a great addition. One of the mini goals I want to achieve before the end of the 300 days is to build every single obelisk. And unfortunately, one of those obelisks is the island one, which requires 10 dragon teeth, which you would all know is just extremely rare. So today I ventured into the volcano in hopes of finding some more. I was in there all day and I managed to find 2 more, which wasn't too bad. Day 271 was the day of mine and Isabel's wedding. Nothing new to mention, you've seen this 1,000 times now. Although it was nice to see that all my watermelons I had planted had finally grown. Just look how many giant ones there were. There was even a gianter one, which was just crazy. I'd finally had the cheese and wine I needed to finish the special order from Olivia, which rewarded me with 80,000 gold. After the watermelon harvest, my fields were in need of new crops, so I headed straight to Pierre's to purchase as many new crops as I could. Day 272 there isn't much to mention, but I spent most of it back in the volcano on Ginger Island to try and find more dragon teeth. Day 273, or Summer 21, one benefit of the Green Rain event a few nights ago was that it makes trees grow instantly. This means that a load of my hardwood trees in the desert were ready for harvesting. I've got around 250 pieces of it. And once again I spent the rest of the day back in the volcano for more dragon teeth. Day 274 was spent in Pelican Town, where the town gathered together to enjoy some cheese and wine, which was created by Olivia with all the produce I had gave her a few nights ago, which was quite nice. Back in East Scarp I met up with Ideen, who taught me how to craft bouquets, which was another recipe I needed for perfection. Remember that abandoned greenhouse? Well, today I'd finally had all the items to finish the quest, and once I arrived back in Ridgeside, I saw that it was no longer ruined, but fully restored, and whatever spirit was in it had been set free. Bliss was there once again and told me that I could use it for whatever I wanted, which was nice, but I don't see much use for it, it's too out of the way. Yet again I was back in the volcano in search for more dragon teeth, and it was nice to see I had 10, which I needed to finally build the island obelisk. Summer 22 was the dwarf's birthday, so I handed him a love gift before the end of the night, and after checking the requirements for the rest of the obelisks, I had most of what I needed for the East Scarp one, and just 10 more spiritual essences to build the Ridgeside one, which was exciting. The only thing that stopped me building the island one was bananas. So I'd have to wait 4 days until I finally had enough bananas to build it. After completely removing the trees on the tree farm, I decided to plant them in the giant place in the shed. I wasn't using it for much, and why not? Before the end of the whole series I'm planning to redesign the entire farm and everything, so anything you see now is really just temporary. Day 275 I received yet another book from Mayor Lewis this time. Strange enough, it would allow me to sell his purple shorts back to him for 1,000 gold each, which was very strange. What was even better is I got another new book from Pierre, which would allow me to improve the quality of rice when milling. Not too handy, but not too bad at the same time. Yesterday I picked up Skull Cavern Invasion, so I used up my staircases to traverse the Skull Caverns and receive the key gems. After all the hardwood I'd collected, I finally had enough for the Summit House upgrade, and it was nice to see them hard at work today. Hopefully soon I might even be able to sleep up here. I thought I might as well do some clearing up on the Summit Farm, and may I say, what a view I get from up here. I cannot wait until the farm is fully done. Before the end of the day I collected a bunch of coffee from inside the giant shed, as well as replenished them with more coffee beans. Day 276 I was interrupted by Emily, to which she wanted 200 pieces of fibre for a project she's working on, and would love for me to collect it for her. Yes, this is the moment I regret not grinding out the Green Rain event. In the mail I received a letter from Alyssa, letting me know that Ridgeside are having a little get together, to which she will be the main singer, and of course, if you remember, she used to be extremely embarrassed by her voice, so it will be nice to see her perform today. As well as that, the people at Odd Jobs had been hard at work, and I was informed in the mail today that the Summit Farm house work had been finished, and I can even get more upgrades. Before I say what they are, just to let you know, they are the most important upgrades ever. Of course, intrigued, I headed straight up to Ridgeside, although I was interrupted by the performance. Of course, how did I forget? Alyssa was of course very nervous, especially when the entire town was apparently here. Although it turned out to be a great performance and everyone enjoyed it. Of course, I headed straight to Odd Jobs to see what I could build, and I could see that I could upgrade the Summit Farm to have climate control, which costs 2 million gold and 100 of each seasonal seed, but it will allow me to grow any crops all year round, which is incredible, the same as the island farm, but way more space this time. As well as that, I could even install a sprinkler system, which would water every crop every day without needing to place any sprinklers down. Although it did cost 1 million gold and 25 iridium sprinklers, which wasn't too bad considering what it offers me. Another upgrade was to build an ore area, which would be quite useful but costs way too much. Something I'd build in the future. But these upgrades are absolutely incredible and I cannot wait to begin building the summit farm later down the line. But for now though, I needed 10 more spiritual essences to build the Ridgeside warp totem, so I headed to the backwoods to farm some. Considering every enemy drops them, it didn't take that long to get them all. I was then at the wizards to build the new Ridgeside warp totem. Annoyingly, it didn't have the new design, and it looked like the original ones, so that might have to be something I install another mod for. The final task of the day was to head to the Cindersap forest to get the 200 pieces of fibre Emily had wanted. Of course, I didn't have any now, regretting not grinding the Green Rain event. Day 277 was the day of mine and Magnus's wedding. Of course, the line of wives was beginning to pile up. I think I have a problem. I made sure to hand Emily the 200 pieces of fibre and hoped to hear back from her. Today, I took to designing the farm once more by installing some fences as well as craft a crazy amount of crystallariums. This meant I could now duplicate 34 jades at once, giving me an endless supply of staircases for the Skull Caverns. It's raining once again on day 278, and this morning a bunch of my crops were ready for harvest. But more importantly, I finally had the 10 bananas, combined with 10 dragon teeth and some iridium bars. I could now build the island warp totem, which will make travelling to Ginger Island much easier. While I was at the wizard's house, I decided to move my greenhouse around. This is where I chose to put it in the end. Again, don't worry, it's not the final design. We have plenty more to go until then. Today was of course summer 26, which meant it was Leo's birthday, so I gave him a duck feather, which was a love gift. If you remember, I still needed to collect all of the monster crops for Lance in the Highlands. And if you remembered last time I was here, it was extremely tough and I managed to find the spring, summer and fall seeds, with the winter one was the only one left to find. So with some life elixirs in hand, I headed straight back up the mountain. Although I couldn't have picked a worse day as the rain was absolutely smashing it down and I could barely see. After making it all the way back to where I died before, I kept following the path to see it must have been a giant loop, as I ended up back at the start. However, I did notice a new small cave which I hadn't seen before, which is where the winter crop must be hiding. As I entered the cave, I could see an incredible amount of copper. I mean, just look how much there was. I need to come here with bombs in the future whenever I needed copper. And iron and gold. Just look at this. Mental. Luckily, after slaying some enemies, I received the Void Seed, which could only be grown in winter and was the last one I needed. I just had to let it grow on Ginger Island and wait to see what's next for Lance. Day 279 was the penultimate day of the season, and what better way to spend it than back in the movie theatre. Today I took Penny as the friendship was very low and was the first person I saw on my trips. I spent some time today delving into more decorating. This time I created a nice area for my lightning rods to go, and I spammed some grass around the place for a more realistic feel to the farm. Day 280 was the final day of my third summer in the valley, although this means we are down to the final 20 days. It doesn't mean the fun will end, however, it has only just begun. The first order of business today was to head to Robin's to expand my home. The amount of people we have living here now means we're going to need the extra room. Back home I decided to turn the attic room into a bathroom, which meant we could now have a bath. These new catalogues allow for crazy new designs, which look brilliant. And this is how the bathroom looked in the end. I love it. I also spent some time decorating the other rooms, although I was struggling for things to put in there, so for now I left it empty, for when I had some cool things to display. Of course, the final event of the day has to be the Dance of the Moonlight Jellies, which, the same as every year, is a relaxing and peaceful festival. I cannot wait for fall, it's going to be the best one yet. What was nice on my return home was that Emily had made me a new outfit, which, as you would know, is my signature outfit. So it finally felt nice to be back in my normal clothes. Thanks, Emily. Here we are. Day 281 officially marks the first day of fall, and I can already feel the cold breeze in my face as I stepped out the cabin. Unfortunately, all my wonderful crops had withered away overnight, so I had to rehoe all my fields, ready for a juicy load of fall crops. In Pierre's, I picked up a variety of fall seeds, such as corn and cranberries, as well as some sweet potatoes and habanero. As with every start to the season, a lot of time was spent watering and planting. Not that I'm complaining, however, I'm a farmer, it's my job. Just a reminder that on Ginger Island, my pineapple business is going great, with another large harvest coming this morning. Back in Mr. Key's walnut room, I picked up Key's cuisine, as I was not doing the Junimo Cart one. Come on, who's actually good at that? And back in Pelican Town, I chose Emily's Rock Rejuvenation, which required me to give her one of every gem. However, after such a stressful start to the fall, I had to head to bed early to get some rest to feel energised tomorrow morning. Day 282 was Penny's birthday, and so I had to wake her up to give her an emerald. I also headed to Blue Moon Vineyard to purchase some more pressure nozzles. At Robin's, I asked her to build me another barn. I really wanted some more animals, so for now I placed it here and waited until it was ready. I took some time today to clear out all of the debris that had overtaken the farm in the new season, as it was beginning to spread and needed to go. Day 283, I had a nice cutscene with Sophia, who wanted to make breakfast for me. I told her to surprise me, and it turned out she made me a complete breakfast, which was delicious and gave me a much needed boost going into the day. At Blue Moon Vineyard, I saw Sophia and Scarlet squashing some grapes. Of course, I really wanted to do it, and she allowed me to have a go. And, being the professional grape squasher I am, made light work of it. More decorating was on the cars today. I chose to remove the tree farm and move my fish ponds up there, which after some time, this is what it looked like. Cute. More brewing begun day 284. Of course I had been doing this every day, but decided to mention it today because, why not? I chose to plant some more grass around the farm to make it look much nicer, and also plant some trees around for the general aesthetics of course, and chose to remove the old fenced area around the farmhouse. I really hated it, and now was the perfect time for it to go. I also decided to move the greenhouse back to where it was originally. I wasn't using it that much now, and I really needed the space to be honest. Before the end of the day, Sophia told me that there was a Comic-Con happening in Zuzu City, and would like for us to get tickets to go. Of course, that sounded amazing, so I agreed to go, and we'll be going next spring. Although that is way past 300 days, so I guess we'll have to wait to see how that goes. I cannot wait for that. Day 285 was the first day of my jades. Oh my gosh, was this the smartest investment I've ever made. Traversing the Skull Caverns will be made 10 times easier now. I headed straight to Robin's to upgrade my barn to a big one. All these buildings were certainly hardening my material storage. Day 286 was the day that the final monster crop was ready to harvest. So after picking up the spring, summer, fall and winter one, I handed them all to Lance, and was excited to see what he had in store for me. Back on the farm, I decided to build a new area inside my animal pen. It had looked so plain throughout the 300 days, so I added some hay bales. This was the final look. Magnificent. I also made the choice to move the winery. I wanted to build another large tree farm, mainly for fir seeds, which I could tap fir, to build the new premium, coop and barn. I made sure to plant plenty of trees of each variety, mainly oak and maple, and only with time we'll see how good it looks. Fall 7 was the end of the first week in the fall, and although the 300 days are slowly coming to a close, there is still so much to do and plenty to explore. Being a Sunday meant I could trade my jades for staircases, managing to get 141 of them in total. While I was here, I chopped down more hardwood trees that were still growing here. I chose to plant the rest of the mahogany seeds whilst here. It doesn't look the best, but is the most convenient location to get them. Fall 7 was also Morgan's birthday, so I handed him a void egg which he loved. Today was also Rosa's birthday, who lived in East Scarp, so I gave her a rabbit's foot, which again she loved. My storage area was beginning to get messy once again, so I took some pride and began sorting it once again, shipping anything I didn't need and placing the correct items where they should have been in the first place. Day 288 was the start of the new week, and it was nice to see my cranberries had their first harvest today, and my Junimos were sure to make good work of them. After some pineappling, I picked up the Skull Cavern invasion quest from Mr. Key, which I could easily do with all the staircases I now had. Whilst I was there, I could see that I was up to 380 key gems, which was still ages away from 2000. Whilst I was there, I did buy 2 mushroom seeds, as they'll look great when they've all fully grown. Yet again, the bookseller was back in town, but he didn't sell any new books, but I did trade 1 combat quarterly for some monster musk. I headed back to the Highlands to meet back up with Lance, which once I arrived I saw a gift was waiting for me, which was a diamond wand, which was nothing like I'd ever seen before, and was described to teleport enemies away from the user, and is effective against flyers. I assume this is going to be very useful in the Crimson Badlands, which I still had to venture into, but made me excited to see what new weapons I could find in 400 Days and beyond. Straight away I took to the Skull Caverns to finish the Skull Cavern Invasion quest, and with the staircases I now had, it wasn't difficult in the slightest. On my return to the casino, I saw Morris once again, who I hadn't seen all the way since the Jojamar went down, and turned into a movie theatre. Typical of him, he accused me of cheating, which was impossible as I hadn't been there for ages. Although thankfully Sandy wasn't having it, she was fuming, and gave him and Mr. Key a piece of her mind, which was nice to see. One of the special orders in Ridgeside tasked me to hand out some dishes to random villagers, so I took to my storage to collect as many as I could. Day 289 I received a letter from Mr. Key, to which he gave me 26,960 gold, with the note of, "Here's a belated late wedding gift, and to buy Sandy something nice." Really stuck on what I wanted to do today, I did the usual "I'm bored again" day, and began to cook as many recipes I could. I managed to get a lot done, and was progress towards 100% perfection. Well, here we are, the final 10 days inside the mega modded farm, and I really wanted to send their 300 days off to a bang, so I went straight off to the Skull Caverns to get down as far as possible, and hopefully to get a load of iridium. Being the absolute pro I am, I made it all the way down to floor 290 before passing out with over 300 copper and over 100 iridium. Day 291 I wandered into the Wizard's Tower to see that Morgan was pretending to be Magnus and perform some basic magic. It was funny to see, I can't wait to see more of him. The real reason I was here was to build the final obelisk, the East Scarp obelisk, which was fairly easy and cheap. Today I wandered around Ridgeside to hand out the dishes I needed to the Ridgeside Special Order. Into the night I met up with Kiara. She needed some help with picking the wallpaper for a client she had. I told her that the Ridgeside Gathering one looked great, and that's the one we went with. Day 292 I bumped into Kiara once again by the cable car to see a bunch of trash had been thrown all over the place. So we decided to pick it all up, hopefully inspiring people to not drop it. I headed back to the farm to use the workbench to craft up as many more recipes as I could, as well as some new machines. One of them was the alembic, which can turn flowers into oils, which was quite exciting. Furthermore, I went into the chest to ship a bunch of items I hadn't shipped yet. As you would know, to reach 100% perfection, I would need to ship every item, and unfortunately with Cornucopia and Ridgeside and all the other mods, there was now double the items than before. I headed up to Robin's to build a mill. Although they are fairly useless, they look great as a decoration, so again, why not? Day 293 was Abigail's birthday, so I woke her up this morning to give her an amethyst, which upped her to 8 hearts. Being a new season meant a new movie was on, so I thought I'd give Gunther a chance to leave the museum and come watch a movie with me. Annoyingly, he appeared to be dozing off. Today I was back in the backwoods to do some light fishing. I was mainly after the fish I hadn't gotten yet. More fishing was the goal on day 294, this time on floor 60 of the normal mines. I wanted to catch the ice pip. Unfortunately, this is a very tough one to catch, so it did take me over half the day to get it. After that I was on floor 20 of the normal mines to catch the stonefish. That one didn't take too long, however. And for the final task of the day I was back in the sewers. I wanted to catch the mutant carp, which didn't take too long, so I headed to the mutant bug lair to catch the slimejack as well. I'm woken by a wonderful smell this morning, as rhubarb pie was ready from Magnus, which was nice. And today I chose to pick up the extended family quest from Mr. Key, and I got right on with that. I've done this one plenty of times, so I won't mention it. Up at the Adventurers Guild I met up with Sandy, and we shared a nice moment looking off into the distance. As a gift she decided to give me her rose gold boots, which I didn't realise how good they actually were. They give 10 defense and 10 immunity. But they do look like I'm running around in my feet. But unfortunately they're too good to get rid of, so they're staying. Day 296 was the return of the Stardew Valley Fair, and unfortunately I only won the second prize once again from the Grange display. But there wasn't anything new in the store anyway, so I didn't stay too long. Although it was a nice day to relax and play some carnival games. Day 297 was spent cooking many more recipes. I thought to get the boring bits out now as they would save me much time in the future. There was still plenty of time left in the season, so I bought some more seeds from Pierre's and spent the rest of the day hoeing and watering them. Day 298 I was back for the final time in the 300 days inside the greenhouse, harvesting my unlimited batch of ancient fruit, to which, as you'd fairly know by now, is all going into kegs. Boringly, nothing else happened today, mainly more cooking, which I'm not going to show. Trust me, it's not special. Day 299 I met up with Lexi again, who lived underneath East Scarp, who didn't understand why her plant had died. I told her that it also needed sunlight. And here we are, day 300. Today was luckily the day of the Ridgeside gathering, which meant we could celebrate the final day of the video in a perfect way. The stores didn't sell any good items now, but I was more interested in the music, which like every year was great and a perfect way to send off the 300 days video. And that is it, we have reached 300 days inside the mega modded farm. And I would like to say I appreciate all the support you've shown me over the course of the series, and I love reading and responding to all you lovely people in the comments. This is taking ages to put together, so a like and subscribe will be greatly appreciated. 400 days is on its way, so if you're subscribed, you'll be the first to see it. But for now, thank you and goodbye.